Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
All right, my friends, hour number 2 of today's program. It's good to be here talking here about what's happening in Los Angeles, about the different narratives. We've talked last hour about how people are saying it's not illegal to be here illegally. It's not illegal to not have your papers. It's not illegal to be an undocumented migrant, as they say. And of course, that's not true. That is not true. They're the ones that came up with these terms to avoid having to say that these folks are illegal aliens. They're the ones that came up with the term of undocumented migrant or immigrant to make it sound less of a problem, when in reality, they be wrong, as they always are. I played a soundbite from a former Univision anchor claiming these things. They're trying to conflate things all over the place. We've been through this. I'm not going to repeat myself. That's where we went that's where we were last hour. Sonny Hostin, Sarah Haynes on The View also telling us that it's Americans are wrong for thinking it's illegal to be undocumented. Now, listen, they're trying to conflate things, and I do think it's important to clear some things up. In fact, Oz was asking me some questions during the break that's led me to want to clarify some other things as well, which I will do here in this hour. Friends, before I do that, if you're in sales, if you're a salesperson, by the way, first and foremost, hear me say this, that's a worthy profession. You are helping get people the products and services they need. You're helping your company get the revenue it needs. You're helping people at your company get paid. You're providing a solution, and you should be compensated for this. Some people don't understand that, and that's okay. They don't like that. And by the way, there have been lots of examples of some really sleazy salespeople out there, but you don't have to be one of them. That's what Matt Easton and Easton University is here to help you not be one of those folks. And so Matt Easton has a training program, sales coaching program that you can find at Easton University. In fact, if you sign up to be a student through our website, toddhuffshow.com/Easton, you will get a bonus, and that is a welcome call from Matt himself as he welcomes you to the program and helps you hit the ground running, basically, get you squared away and headed in the right direction as quickly as possible so that you can make the improvements necessary to improve your sales as quickly as possible. But you've got to take that first step, my friends. toddhuffshow.com/Easton. That is the website. Go there to sign up to become a student. Get your one-on-one call, your welcome call with Matt. Do not let the opportunity pass you by. Folks, if you're in sales, you got to do something. When I started, I invested personally in some, back in the day, it was CDs. There might have been DVDs too, but CDs and some workbooks from the late, great Zig Ziglar that helped me tremendously. Today, it's online and all that sort of stuff. And investing in this is going to pay off, my friends. If you follow the program, I don't see any other outcome besides it pays off. toddhuffshow.com/Easton is where you go. All right. Couple things I want to hit on here. During the break, Oz was asking me. She said, look, I've stopped following some of this stuff. You know, it's gotten intense. And a lot of people feel this way, and I understand that. I certainly understand that. It's one of the reasons we're conservative, not bitter. I don't come on here and scream at you every day. I don't understand the appeal of people who do that. I don't understand the appeal to that. I want to be spoken to like an adult. I want to have things explained, articulated. I want to use what I'm being told or what's being said, and I want to sift it through my own processes and determine, do I agree with that? Do I agree with half of that, all of that, most of that, some of that, none of that? And so I treat you like adults on here because you are. You follow the stuff, you have your opinions, but I know it's tough a lot of times because it's so intense right now. And I would say that certainly the intensity can push people away, but in a weird way, it should draw us even closer because the crazier that the left gets, the more desperate that they are. And I think in some ways, we can really put an end to the cancerous effect of this movement if we continue to put one foot in front of the other, if we respectfully deal with those who respectfully disagree with us, but also, my friends, for those who are going to carry on like petulant children and break the law, they should be facing the consequences of the law. And Oz asked me some questions, and it led me to a series of thoughts. You know, we've all seen things on social media or accusations out there where, you know, somebody's targeted who's not a violent criminal. I thought Trump was only targeting the violent criminals. Well, that is what they're doing. But let me explain what's going on. I've heard Tom Homan talk about this. I may even have this in the stack of stuff. I've read some stuff. There's so much information right now. But I remember watching him talk about this. First of all, why are ICE raids needed in places like Los Angeles? By the way, Chicago, it's other places too, but why do we need them in places like Los Angeles? Well, because they're sanctuary cities or they're in sanctuary states. What does that mean? We talked about that a little bit yesterday. And without getting into all the weeds and details, at the bottom line, what it means is that when local law enforcement have somebody in custody that ICE wants or ICE thinks is somebody that needs to be deported who is here illegally, they don't cooperate. So what does that mean? So in a sane world, listen, I understand cities say, look, it's not our job to enforce immigration law. We're not going to go out there and look for people. We're not going to enforce these warrants. We've got other problems to deal with in our cities. Got it, understand, not your job. You don't need to spend your resources on that necessarily. However, I also think if someone's breaking the law and you have them and you say, it doesn't appear that this person is in the country legally, I feel like it's not too much to ask to send an email, make a phone call to ICE and just say, hey, we've detained this person. Instead of just releasing them into the community, let's say you even have a problem with that. That's fine. I'm not even saying that has to be done. But if ICE knows that you've detained a person and they say, hold this person until we get there, and instead of doing that, or instead of communicating with them and dropping them off and handing them over into ICE custody, instead of doing that, what you do is you just release them back into the general population. Now put yourself in ICE's shoes. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Because you're going after, right, the reason that this guy popped up on your screen, so to speak, at the top of the list is because he's been violating laws. He's been getting arrested. He's been causing problems. He's suspected. Listen, again, I can say suspected in this case because it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a criminal to be deported. All Trump is saying and all the administration has said is that that's where they're starting. So in a weird way, the sanctuary cities have brought this on themselves. I've heard Tom Homan talk about this. If they simply would have allowed ICE, to come and take these people that were arrested and so forth, a lot of this would have been avoided immediately because they wouldn't have had to do ICE raids. Because why are they doing raids? Because the cities, the local law enforcement won't just hand them over. In fact, you may have heard stories along the way of ICE arresting people in parking lots and stuff. And sometimes there might have been a scuffle or they tried to get away or whatever. The reason that that's the case is because these sanctuary cities will not hand these folks over to ICE in, whether it's the courtroom or whether it's the police station or whatever, the jail, that they release them first. I've read accounts of this where ICE is arresting people. Think about Think about the level of danger that they've just created, right? Instead of having someone detained and in the custody of local law enforcement, a couple of officers hand that person off to a couple of ICE agents inside a secure facility, and then they transfer custody of that detainee, of that individual to ICE. They instead let them go. And then ICE has to figure out other ways. That's what you hear people. You hear stories of ICE showing up at different places because they're trying to basically put themselves where these other people are going to be. And then people get upset about that. Well, they're just trying to, snoop around and find out personally what's going on so that they can be where this person is. Oh, yes, because your city is doing everything in its power to prevent ICE from actually taking the person into custody simply and easily. So they say, we're going to do these raids, right? You're letting these people into the streets. The administration, the president, the chief executive of the administrative state of the executive branch, he won an election in part for securing the border and deporting criminal illegal aliens, or the worst of the worst. And so now we're in your streets because you won't cooperate with us. So now we're in your streets. Now you get mad at us because the people see us in your streets. By the way, if you just would have cooperated with us, we wouldn't have had to do this, or not to this degree. Now you're mad at me because your people are mad at us for being there, but why are we there? We're there because you wouldn't cooperate. And then all the time, what are you saying? Trump's the one who wants this to be a spectacle. Seems to me that you're the ones who want this to be a spectacle. It seems to me that your side can benefit a lot more from these emotions and these personal stories. And then some of the individual case-by-case sad stories that come from what happens when ICE is in your streets. And this is what Oz was asking me about. She's like, well, what about these people that have been detained who are not criminals? They're here illegally, but they're not criminals. And I said, Oz, first of all, again, we have to understand, if you are here illegally, don't listen to Sonny Hostin. Don't listen to Sarah Haynes. Don't listen to this former journalist at Univision. If you are here and you think that you're just undocumented, right? If you entered this country illegally, if you entered the country illegally, if you didn't go through the proper process, no matter what name they've given to you, you are illegally present in the country. They might have deferred action against you. The previous administration might have ignored enforcing the law. They might have told you that you can go ahead and apply for this status, but you are currently, as it stands, in this country illegally unless you followed the law. If you didn't come in through a port of entry and follow the steps required and necessary, you are in this country illegally. They can call it whatever they want, right? Undocumented this, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can be deported if you do not have the actual legal status, legal reason by law on the books to be here. And if you don't fall into one of those categories, you can be deported. So now what happens? You've got ICE looking for the criminal elements of illegal aliens in the streets of Los Angeles because Los Angeles wouldn't cooperate because of lunatics like Karen Bass and lunatic governors like Gavin Newsom, the ones who really want the spectacle here, right? These are the folks, hear me out. These are the folks that really desire the spectacle. They think the spectacle is going to turn hearts and minds to them, especially if they can make this personal, especially if they have examples of some really sad personal stories and so forth, that they can make this as ugly and as, dramatic as possible. And now their cities burning to the ground. Seems pretty dramatic to me. All this could have been avoided. This could have 100% been avoided. Think about this as well. Newsom and Bass didn't want National Guard. They fought this all the entire time. They said it was under control. All of these things have happened with the presence of National Guard, and now, presumably, I don't know if the Marines are there yet, but either has happened or will happen with the presence of the Marines and the National Guard. How much more of this would have happened without their presence? It wouldn't have been better. Their position is they want you to believe that less of this would have happened if there was less of a presence from the National Guard and from the Marines. That's what they wanted you to think. But the reason the National Guard was sent in to begin with was because the stuff had already started. So then it's just, all of this is just crazy. It's not the way that reality works. It's like walking up to somebody and punching them, and then they punch you back, and then they said, oh, you punched me back too hard. Now you've caused this. You've caused us to want to fight you harder. But I can't with these people. So back to the story. You got ICE on the streets looking for people who are the worst of the worst. The drug dealers, the gang members, people who have been criminally charged, have criminal histories, all this stuff, right? And keep in mind, you don't have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. You don't have to go through due process to say he is this person's a murderer, this person's a drug dealer, therefore he can be deported. No. Anybody who's here illegally, as I said, can be deported. We're just looking for the ones who have been causing the most trouble. The ones who have the criminal histories are the ones who are associated, connected with gangs and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be any of those things to be deported. That's just where we're starting because honestly, that makes the most sense, right? That makes the most sense. To people with brains, that makes the most sense. If you have a massive number of people that are breaking the law, then you start with the ones who are the biggest problem, the ones who are the biggest threats to your community. And you don't have to legally prove that they are because any of them, even if they have a crystal clear record, not even a speeding ticket on their record, they can be deported if they're here illegally. This is not complicated. So now ICE is in your streets because you wouldn't cooperate. Now ICE is looking for other people. Now, let's say in the process, ICE is looking for a particular illegal alien that they suspect is in a gang or whatever, selling drugs. They don't have to prove it in a court of law. They're just going to start with him because they have reason to believe that of all the illegal aliens in the city, he's one that's got the highest likelihood of being either engaged in or potentially engaged in violent behavior. So now I go after this guy. In the process, I encounter four other people who are not supposed to be here illegally. Now, they absolutely can get caught up in this. They weren't targeted. Why did I see them to begin with? Well, may I remind you, I saw them to begin with as an ICE officer because the city wouldn't cooperate to begin with. They wouldn't give me the worst of the worst. They forced me, if I wanted to enforce the law, to come to their cities and do these raids. And in the process of doing the raids that they forced me to do, because they wouldn't cooperate, now I have other people that have come across in the process of going after the worst of the worst, and now they're getting caught up in this as well. Some of these folks might be women. Some of these folks might be mothers. Some of these folks, it's going to be said of them, are going to have their children ripped away from them. But let's pause everything on this. If you are deported, if you are deemed to be here illegally, and if you have children, you are 100% given the opportunity to take those children with you. Now, in the initial process, when you're detained by ICE, they're not going to take the children with you. They're not going to do that. Just like if you get pulled over for reckless driving, or let's say you break the law for something. The people in this audience aren't lawbreakers, so anything I say isn't going to apply. But let's just say it was reckless driving. Let's say you were driving, super fast and in a dangerous manner, and you're going 40 miles an hour over the speed limit or something crazy like that. It's bad enough to where they actually arrest you, not just give you a citation, they actually arrest you. If your kids are in your car, what happens? Do the cops take the kids to the jail cell with you? Is that what they're supposed to do? No. They figure out what to do with the children. They put them into some sort of protective custody, get them to another parent, grandparent, guardian, custodian somebody. And then you could certainly say woman arrested has children ripped away from her by law enforcement. But let's pause everything. Why were the children ripped away? The children were ripped away because the adult broke the law. The children aren't going to go to jail. And so the point of separation came when the adult decided to break the law. Now, she's not going to lose her children permanently, but there's going to be a period of time where she can't see the kids, especially if she's in jail, especially if she's not able to bond out. There's going to be a period of time. And who deserves the blame for this? Is it the law enforcement officer? Is it the judge? Or is it the mother? You could say she had her children ripped away from her by law enforcement, but you could just as easily say that by breaking the law, she separated herself from her family, from her children. Now, I'm not here to say that there's never anything that ever goes awry and that there's not problems, even some bad problems. Elon even acknowledged this whenever he was talking about Doge. I know it's a different issue, but it's the same in general. He said, look, we're going to make some cuts and we're going to realize we made some mistakes. Then we'll fix them. We're not, in order to do the financial cuts necessary, you've got to act big and bold. You got to act quickly. And sometimes when you have that mentality, you make a mistake and then you correct it. Likewise, when you're doing these raids, you have to be able to act decisively. You got to be able to deal with a lot of moving parts, and sometimes you're going to make mistakes. There's a difference, by the way, between an actual mistake and someone trying to abuse their authority. Abuse of authority is not a mistake. Abuse of authority is authoritarianism. Trying to enforce the law and making a mistake is just that, a mistake. Those things will be corrected. It's sometimes unpleasant. It takes some time, but nonetheless, that's what happens. Friends, more to say on this, but listen, if you care about your health, your future, care about taking care of yourself, especially your heart, that's something that we don't think about oftentimes. A good place to start, a great first step, is by taking Solti. Solti is an all-natural, clinically proven dietary supplement that will lower cholesterol. It's lowered cholesterol for lots of folks. Science has spoken on this. It might do the same for you as well. All you have to do is take 2 Solti soft gels a day, and people have seen tremendous results with their lower cholesterol. So it's a great place to start. It's very affordable. It's not a drug. It's an all-natural supplement, and it works for lots of people. It might work for you. I take the product. I think you should think about it as well. Solti.com, SOLTEA. That's the website. Promo code Todd will save you 50% and get you free shipping. So, Solti.com, promo code Todd. Time out here, my friends. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So hopefully that, discussion puts some of this into focus. I guess we can say a little bit more about that. In the last segment, we were basically drawing the analogy between, a person who's an American citizen who breaks the law, who has their children with them, or even if they don't have them physically with them at the moment, they're going to not see their kids when they're in jail. This is the same thing. But it's all about the way that it's phrased. And we've got to be, as a country, and I understand, this is why propaganda is so effective. So effective because it changes the way people think about an issue. In fact, sometimes it changes people to abandon, it causes people to abandon all logic and sense because it's so craftily written or spoken. And when you say that children were ripped from a mother, that sounds terrible. I mean, if someone called me up that I knew who was a mother and said, Todd, someone ripped my children from me, I would immediately go into the mode that would be pretty fired up, right? And that's deliberate. That's what they want us to do. Listen, if ICE is ripping children away from people, and that is their purpose and intent, and they're not just enforcing immigration law, that's not what we want them to do. But if someone is here illegally and they need to go through the deportation process and possibly be deported, and they have children, I also don't believe that the children should be hanging out in the jail with them, right? I mean, this was the same thing that was happening when they would say that Trump was separating children from their parents along the southern border when people were crossing the border in his first term, and there was a detention center for adults and children. Well, no kidding. No kidding. You want to keep the children safe from some of these adults, so you put the children in a children's facility, and they're, across the way from one another or whatever. It doesn't mean that they're separated permanently from their children. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think that ICE is trying to inflict personal pain on these people and be inhumane. And listen, if there's examples of ICE agents that are doing that, I'll be at the front of the line for wanting those people to, first of all, to be removed from their position. Secondly, if they violated the law, to absolutely face the consequences of that. We're being lied to. We're being manipulated. For those of you who want to understand the government, just we're dealing with narcissists. If you look at narcissistic behavior that sometimes we deal with on a interpersonal level with somebody else, if you deal with a narcissist who is always the victim, never at fault, always trying to be manipulative, I mean, bingo bango, welcome to dealing with our government. Government, my friends. That's one of the things that Trump's trying to clean up. I'm not sure how much of that he's actually going to get to clean up. I hope that it's, at first we hit the ground running, and now I feel like I don't want to say anything stalled because it's only been a few months of his second term, but we're certainly not moving at the breakneck speed that we once were. But we are with these deportations, and the administration they say, look, we're going to do this. Bill Mulligan, he's on Twitter here, or X. Sorry, it's always going to be Twitter. I don't ever mean that. He's a national correspondent for Fox News. He's based, by the way, in Los Angeles. And this is what he posted on X. Well, I guess it would have been a couple of days ago. He said, it's new. I asked U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, U.S. Attorney Asaley, if there's any world where the L.A. riots get bad enough that the feds will stop their immigration enforcement. He said absolutely not, and that the riots will have the opposite effect, leading to more military and federal resources being sent into L.A. Nothing will stop their federal immigration operations, he said. I also asked about the federal arrest of David Huerta, the president of the largest labor union in California, for allegedly interfering with ICE agents in Paramount on Friday. I asked Asaley if that arrest is meant to send more of a don't interfere with our guys message, or if he's actually looking to put Huerta in federal prison. Asaley told me the federal agents had no idea who Huerta was when he was arrested, and that he will receive no special treatment. Yes, he will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and the same will happen to anyone else who interferes, Asaley said. Asaley also told me his office, again, tweet here or post on X by Bill Mulligan of Fox News. Asaley also told me his office has many open investigations into looters, rioters, arsonists, and rock stone throwers, adding that every piece of available video and social media will be combed through, and that the targets shouldn't feel comfortable just because they haven't been arrested. It's coming, he said. Good. All of these things he's answered this. This is a U.S. attorney here, has answered these questions, I would say, flawlessly. No, we're not going to be discouraged of enforcing the law just because the city grows more and more, tense with our presence. I've already laid out, he didn't, but I did. Previously, I laid out why they're there to begin with. The left has refused. The left has interfered and obstructed through this entire process. And so now it's come to a head, and he said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Basically, what he's saying is it doesn't matter the level of the temper tantrum. They will send the resources necessary to enforce the law and to bring law and order back to the city of Los Angeles. That's the right answer. It's not pleasant for a lot of people. I'm sorry for those who live in this city of Los Angeles. This stuff should have happened a long time ago. These problems should have been dealt with a long, long time ago. They have been ignored. They have been ignored in ways that I don't think the average person has a clue the amount of ignoring that's been done to get us to this point. So they're not going to be dissuaded from enforcing the law regardless of the opposition they face. In fact, the president is committed to sending whatever resources are necessary to fulfill this mission of this ICE raid, these ICE raids. And look, if we arrest people for breaking the law, we don't care who they are. We're not targeting anybody. We didn't target this David Horta. Didn't even know who the guy was at the time. He was someone that was arrested because he was breaking the law. And that's what we're going to do. One foot in front of the other. They can throw themselves on the floor. They can try to burn this place to the ground. We're going to try to prevent that from happening, but we're not the ones who are doing it. I mean, I don't understand the people who think that the right solution is to stop. It makes no sense to me. Do you think that it's going to get better? I mean, if this is the response of the people in the city, we need to know who these people are, I guess, who are prepared to engage in this level of violence and get them off the streets when they break the law. This isn't baiting them, but they're using it as an excuse. They think that they're above the law. And all this is the enforcement of law, my friends. That's all that this is. That's all that this is. So I'm encouraged by the administration. That's exactly the right answer, but what needs to be said here. So there's also, I got an article here, lifezet.com. Tom Homan slaps LA rioters and their backers with a hard reality check. Probably can't get to this just yet, but I can set it up. I think he's on with Jesse Waters. Same sort of discussion. Is ICE going to leave? I mean, what's going to happen? This stuff's getting intense. Is it going to be the end of these raids? What do you do? Tom Homan says ICE ain't leaving. That's what he says. No. ICE ain't leaving. And the people who are breaking the law while we're trying to do our job, be prepared because you're going to face the consequences too. You break federal law, you're going to have to deal with federal charges. So this is exactly what needs to be done. It's not comfortable. I get it, but it's 100% necessary, my friends. Friends, let's really quickly here talk about sleep. If you're tossing and turning at night, maybe time to make a change, and MyPillow may have the solution. Their patented pillows are a game changer, but they've also got luxurious towels, incredibly comfortable sheets, cozy slippers, a whole lot more. It's not just comfort, my friends. It's quality that you can trust. On top of that, MyPillow products are made right here in the good old US of A. So when you buy from MyPillow, you're not just investing in that ever so important better night's sleep. You're also supporting American jobs and American values. That's something, my friends, that we can all get behind. Go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Todd to get discounts on products there when you shop. Do not wait. Your best sleep ever may just be a click away, my friends. MyPillow.com. Promo code Todd. Sleep like a patriot, my friends. Live like a champion. Quick timeout. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Tom Homan tells Jesse Waters, ICE ain't leaving. ICE ain't leaving LA. ICE is going to be sent to other places as well, has been sent to other places. I saw raids in, I believe, Nebraska also. ICE is not leaving. There's nothing you're going to do to change that. Here he is on with Jesse Waters explaining just what the mission is and how they're going to go about doing it and how they're not going to be swayed. They're not going to be swayed from the mission at hand.
Well, ICE ain't leaving. Well, as a matter of fact, we got over 100 teams out today. enforcing immigration law, and we're going to flood the zone. I've said for a month, sanctuary cities. You don't want us to arrest these bad guys that you just listed out. We could arrest them in the safety and security of the county jail, but they won't let us into jail.
That's
they release
right.
them into the community, which means we got to send a whole bunch of teams in the community to find this dangerous person that don't want to be found. So sanctuary cities are going to get exactly what they don't want: more officers in the communities and more officers in worksite. We can't arrest them in the jail or arrest them in the community. If we can't arrest them in the community, we're going to increase worksite enforcement operation. We're going to flood the zone. And based on what LA is doing right now, we're going to continue to flood the zones. We're going to be there tonight. We're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there every day in the next 4 years, arresting public safety threat illegal aliens. We're not going to apologize for doing it. So we're not going anywhere, Jesse. We're going to do the job the American people voted Donald Trump in office for. We're going to make America safe again, one illegal alien criminal at a time. And this is another reason we need the big, beautiful bill passed so we can hire more ICE agents, get more technology, and help us find these people. Look, we got over 20 million illegal aliens in this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. We're outnumbered. You want more criminals taken off the street? You want more efficient operations? Then they need to pass this bill and fund ICE and fund the Border Patrol to keep President Trump's promise to the American people.
Okay, he makes a little pitch there for the passage of the one big, beautiful bill at the conclusion of that. By the way, did you see Elon? I don't know. I think it was a post on X. I saw where he had basically said, I went too far recently with some of my tweets and posts or some such things. The fight that he had with Trump, he's backed off of that. Anyway, that seems to be just kind of left to hopefully just kind of burn out and not be taken any further. But anyway, when it comes to ICE, Tom Homan says, ICE ain't leaving. We're going to do this job. And he pointed out in that answer with Jesse Waters, he pointed out, look, this could have been avoided. The reason we're here is because we couldn't, these cities, the local law enforcement, because of policies, sanctuary city policies, they won't cooperate with us. They couldn't hand us these prisoners, these illegal aliens in a safe environment. So now we got to send teams in. I went through this previously in this hour. That's exactly what's happening, my friends. ICE isn't going anywhere, and we've got to be prepared because Saturday, this is going to be all over the country. In fact, I gave you the website. If you want to check it out, bear with me here, and I'll pull up the website again. NoKings.org is the website. NoKings.org. Of course, this website, the message or the position of the site, the organizers, is that they are here to prevent Trump from becoming a king. There's going to be a mass protest. This is, they'll use whatever vehicle they can. They'll use whatever vehicle, whatever issue they can. In this particular case, it's ICE and deportations, but it'll be anything, right? It'll be, gee whiz. It could be the LGBTQ stuff, the transgender stuff. It could be climate change, whatever they can use to stir up dissension and opposition to Trump, they are prepared to use it, and they will stop at nothing. I've shared before that this is their religion. This is their God. This is what they worship, government. They do. They worship. Honestly, some of these folks worship pure lawlessness, and it's unraveling around them, and they think that if they just behave badly and carry on enough, that it's going to stop the enforcement of the law. That's why I'm encouraged. Tom Homan says, no, we're not leaving. We're going to see this thing through to completion. We're going to be here for the entire 4 years. Better deal with it. If you don't like the law, change the law. So that's where we are. Friends, I'm down to the final minute or so of the program. Want to wrap up here, but I want to speak a little bit about my Pacers. I've reserved the right, just like my dad reserved that row of Rice Krispie treats circa 1994. I reserve the right to speak about the Pacers. Tonight is Game 3 Tonight's game 3. It's tied 1-1 back here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. You know, I always pause because I'm like, it's Conseco Fieldhouse to me, number one, because that's what it was when it was built. Then I remember it was Bankers Life. Now it's Gainbridge. It's just a lot for me to keep straight when I just care about going to, Market Square was always Market Square. Or at least I think it was. So, but game 3 tonight, I don't know how this is going to go. I feel a little bit less confident than I have previously, but we'll talk about it tomorrow as well. I'm looking forward to watching the game. It's going to be, I think, a good one. Hopefully the Pacers come ready to play and to compete. Look, I got a lot of respect for the Thunder, too. That's a team. The Pacers have to lose it, which I hope that they don't. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't mind seeing Oklahoma City as one of my next favorites to win anyway. So, not a bad group of guys. Gotta go, SDG.